2.
Quorum. So I am calling the meeting to order, and we are asking the deputy city clerk, the city clerk, for roll call.
Commissioner Kershner is not here. Commissioner Momsen?
Here.
Commissioner Van Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Smull is not here. Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Emerson?
Here.
And Commissioner Knudsen is not here, and Chair Schlelein.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we may need to have comments from the public, so I'll read this. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. We ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Under state law, the commission cannot discuss or act upon matters presented under this item at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to comment when the item comes up for commission consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the chair, please step to the podium and speak into the microphone. Begin by stating and spelling your name. If there is anyone in the public that wishes to speak, please come forward. Thank you. Item 2.0, presentations. The 2025 City Council Goals presentation by City Manager David Guhin. City Manager Guhin, please take it away.
Great, thank you, and thank you for having me. And I know you have a full packed agenda tonight, so I will keep this brief and quick and here to answer any questions. But I do want to touch on 3 things. One is give you an update on what the council did with their council goals. You may have heard that, seen that, but I want to talk through that real quickly for you. Give you a quick update on the Parks and Rec Director recruitment, and let you know we are starting our budget process for 25-26. So we have a lot going on over the next few months, and so I just want to make sure you're aware of all those things happening, how you can be engaged and provide feedback through this commission. So first off, regarding the council goals, we have started last year working with the council early in the year in January, February timeframe to set goals for the year. It's really important for them to understand, as a body, to understand where they want to go as a council, and then our job as city staff, as boards and commissions, and is to work together to figure out how to accomplish these goals and move those goals forward. So we did a lot last year, and this year we're hoping to do a lot more. And with them all rowing the same direction and all of us rowing the same direction, we can get a lot done together. So I'm looking forward to it this year. And I'm gonna make sure. You might need to help me. Can you click the thing? Sorry about that. Well, the first goal, as you can imagine, is housing. I'll just go ahead and start that. It's probably one of the most challenging topics that we have, not just in Sonoma, but everywhere in the state and throughout the country. So making it a goal is really important for a number of reasons. One, it sets that priority, make sure the public is aware that that's a goal of ours. But we all need to figure out how to do that, and it takes a lot from the process standpoint, from cost, from permitting to construction, to identifying affordable housing sites, to when housing developments do come in, that we're all working together to make sure that they're successful and not pushing people out. So we have a lot of creative approaches to address housing, both market rate housing, but also affordable housing. That's the most challenging. Affordable housing is a tricky situation because we do have affordable housing in the community, so part of it is to preserve that affordable housing, which we currently have some expiring, so we're working quickly to try to save those units and make sure that they're preserved and they don't fall into the open market. We also need to acquire affordable housing that's out there, and then also build new affordable housing. So there's a lot of different ways to accomplish that over time. We have a number of policies that the Planning Commission is going to be working on this year. They just brought their work plan to the City Council last night to talk about what they're going to be doing to address affordable housing moving forward, incentives, other packages, and things we can do to encourage the construction and acquiring of affordable housing. And then also in this bucket is addressing our homeless population. So we're working closely with the county to identify different approaches to homelessness services. So part of that is emergency homeless services, which you see at HAS over off Highway 12. That's emergency. That's only supposed to be short term. The next step is to go into permanent supportive housing, which is have housing with services to support those individuals in moving on into permanent housing. And then in addition to that, we have food services, we have emergency shelters, which is right over here at the Haven that we've been activating each year. So a lot of movement happening in that world, and that falls in this bucket of housing. Did you have a question?
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Sure. Of course, yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about affordable rentals in the city of Sonoma that people have to go through the city process to apply. Do we have a contact or someone that I know people that utilize that service, and they have several vacant units in there for over years, but their rentals keep getting increased, and so I don't know who to even contact at the city for that.
Yeah, you can contact the Community Development Director, Jennifer Gates, and you can copy me on that too. If there are vacant units out there, we want to understand why. We have heard some individuals that do have affordable contracts have certain requirements that are put in place that are restricting those that are available to utilize those. So if you have that information, we'd be glad to look at it and take a look and see what we can help.
Thank you.
Okay, so Parks, Recreation, Community Services, obviously a big one. This is exciting. We have a recruitment on the street for Parks and Rec Director. So that is open. We're getting a great response. It's only been open for about a week, and we've had a pretty tremendous response so far. So that closes in, I believe, in about three weeks or so. That director will be an important part of our team. They will oversee all of our parks, our open space, the plaza, our recreation programs with our nonprofit partners, our contracts. They'll also support this commission, the Arts Commission, which will be wonderful, and also supporting the Pros Commission, the Parks Open Space Commission. So they'll have a full plate. They also have the cemeteries under that portfolio, and we keep adding to it. So it's going to be a great position to have, and we'll be able to move a lot of things forward with that position, and hopefully we'll have more resources in addition to myself and Sarah to advocate for arts and how we incorporate that, and we'll have that position dedicated to as well. So we're looking, that'll be exciting. I'm going to move through here pretty quickly. You have all this stuff in writing, but I just want to highlight some of these. Economic development, fiscal stability. This is a big one. Obviously, we want to make sure that we have a base economy, a good economy for what we do. The community did pass Measure T last year, which was a half-cent sales tax. That was enormous. That's going to give us a little breathing room as we create our budget this year. It allowed us to create this Parks and Rec department, but we're working on the budget right now to bring forward. As you can imagine, costs are going up all around the board, so we're trying to address that, but also try to add additional benefit to the community because of that. The community passed that tax. We want to make sure that that's returned back to the community in some way that we've heard throughout the process. So part of that is through the arts and things that you're doing here, but also in our parks area and other areas in the organization. So go ahead. And obviously on the economic development, fiscal stability, we have a lot of uncertainty going into this budget cycle, as you can imagine. So we are kind of working through this with understanding we don't know how things are going to go at the federal level and how that's going to affect us locally, but we're working through that with our federal lobbyists and staying in touch with those issues. The Sonoma Valley Unification Annexation. This is a key topic that working closely with our new Supervisor Hermosillo, to identify areas where we can work together and expand services throughout the valley. For example, our homeless services, which we're currently doing, housing, different creative ways to do affordable housing throughout the valley. We've talked about arts. How do we expand arts, and how do we expand parks, and work with the parks in the valley and to accomplish things in recreation programs. So a lot of what's happening here and what's happening in Pros and what's going to happen in the new Parks and Rec department are going to be tied into this goal as well. Climate mitigation and adaptation. We're learning some of these words apparently are pretty dangerous, so we're still going to move forward. Obviously, these are critical things for what we do. in our community, both from a natural disaster standpoint, making sure that we're prepared for disasters and what are we doing ahead of that to address issues. So our Climate Commission just presented their work plan to the council last night, and there's a number of initiatives on there. If you're interested to see kind of what they're looking at doing this coming year, that's on the website, and you can see what their goals are this year. So those are the goals set by the council, and again, as I mentioned before, it helps me. Obviously, this is my roadmap for how I want to work with the boards and commissions to figure out your work plan, and so you're going to be talking about that later today, which will be great. So hopefully that aligns with the council goals. Then I'm going to be looking at aligning resources, staff resources to address these goals, and then the budget. That's where it really matters. So when you see the budget come out in the next month or two, it needs to address these items in a way that's has an impact to the community. So that's my job, is to make sure that that's reflected in the budget, and then we carry that out throughout the year. So we'll be keeping you involved in that process, and I will definitely keep you involved in the Parks and Rec director recruitment as that's happening, just so you're aware. If you have questions on that, please reach out anytime. You can call me, email me, you know how to get a hold of me, or you can reach out to Sarah and she'll get a hold of me. But just please, if you have a question, ask. We're happy to get you an answer. So, yep.
Just two quick questions. Where would city schools fall in these goals?
So city schools is a separate board, so we don't have jurisdiction over the schools.
Okay.
It's a separate elected body, but we work very closely with the school district. Obviously, we're very intertwined, so I work closely with Jeanette, who the superintendent there, on issues that are happening both within the city and then also our police, how we interact with them as well. And we are also talking on the Parks and Rec side, how do we work with them on all their assets? They have fields and tennis courts and things. How do we work together to create community assets and help manage those into the future? But I'm going to put that on the Parks and Rec director's plate to figure that one out. But those are ongoing future things that we could do with the schools to help support them. Yeah.
Thank you. And on the climate initiatives, the city of Sonoma, as you probably know, is the first city in Sonoma County to sign up for Evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
So we are 24/7 renewable. Is that still a plan for the city of Sonoma? Are they continuing that plan?
Yeah, we have not had any movement to change that, so we're staying with that, and looking to expand that, looking at EV charging, looking at all these different things we can do to expand on that. We have two new electric trucks, or two new electric public works trucks that are out there. We're testing out electric street sweeper. We've got the electric Sonoma County Transit bus we pulled them into the valley, and we're working on a charging station at our yard, so they don't have to go all the way back to Santa Rosa to keep them in the valley. So we're trying to expand and grow our fleet and try different things. So, yeah, thank you.
Other questions?
Roadways in our public works program. In terms of the goals, it's not necessarily goals. That's usually one of those day-to-day jobs that we do to try to maintain. Those typically fall in our CIP program. And so when you look at the budget this year, if you're interested in roads and what roads are going to be paved, if you see a bumpy road, you're like, when is this going to get paved? That will happen during the CIP discussion. So there'll be a completely different section in the budget for CIP, that's Capital Improvement Program budget. And we list out what streets are planned to be repaired in the next year and 2 years. We try to plan 5 years out. So if you have questions about a certain road, please feel free to reach out. We can get you that information. But we're looking to present a map and everything out there so the public has that, so you can look at a road and see when it's going to be done. Yeah.
Do you have, it's a little off subject, but the fee study that we've been involved in, obviously we're still very interested in that, especially as we come together with the other commissions and really look at mapping the city for possible locations for temporary art. What's the status of that?
It's still underway. I think the current status I got from Jennifer was it's not going to be done in time for July. Is that correct?
Yes. Well, you and I are probably working on the same. We're all going, so when is that? I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything in a little while. I don't think we're expecting it until the end of summer.
Yeah, and so that
There's a lot of fees. Apparently.
there's a lot of fees. Yeah, it's been a long time since the city's looked at its fees. So we're doing a complete overhaul because there's fees that are done by percentage, by square foot, by individual. It's confusing. It hasn't been looked at, hasn't been updated. So we're taking a complete relook at it. Part of those fee adjustments are going to address our housing goals, because part of addressing housing is to move to a by square foot fee structures, so that you're really paying for what you're building, so you don't get penalized by building a small unit and paying the same thing as a big mansion, right? So there's different things you can do with your fee structure to encourage different types of development or different what the city's wanting to accomplish. So we're trying to address all those things in this study. So it's a lot. So long way to answer. It's still in process. We're gonna have to figure out some way to address that in our budget. We're gonna have to make some assumptions, but once those are updated, it will affect the budget moving forward, specifically arts and how we're dealing with arts.
I have a question, if I may. Were you through? Yeah, okay. So we just wrapped up a big project to get that art policy put together, and we've been talking about the art master plan.
Mhm.
Is that something that's kind of buried into the Parks and Rec art program for this year, or is that being more looked at in the general plan?
So that's a good conversation for you to have today during your goal setting and what you want to accomplish this year.
Spoiler alert.
Sorry, I don't want to give
When we get to the work plan,
the work plan.
it is addressed in that, so we will talk about that.
Yeah, so that's something that if all of you want that to move forward, is that's one of your priorities for this year. That's great to know. So then it aligns directly with kind of what we've been talking about. And I have to commend you all for the work you did on the policy. Excellent job. I think kind of putting the work in up front. It's not as fun than putting our piece up, but that's going to pay dividends. And so I think now you're into that next phase of, okay, how do you leverage that and turn that into a master plan? So I'll be curious to see what comes out of today, and then whatever comes out of your work plan, we'll take that to council, and then I'll incorporate that into the budget process to make sure we have the resources needed to support what you want to accomplish to help the council.
Speaking of leverage, obviously the Parks and Rec is long overdue. We've needed someone to do cemeteries and parks and all of these things. So onboarding this person probably will be a little overwhelming, and everybody is going to want a piece of that person's time and that sort of thing. How are you thinking we can collaborate to help that person?
It's a great question. I'll be coming to you probably to look for feedback on that, on what part of onboarding do you want to play. Obviously, I would want to bring them here to introduce you to them, but if there's an ad hoc or something that wants to sit down with an individual and kind of talk through what you're doing as a commission, kind of your goals, your aspirations, I think that'd be really helpful. And we can be more specific and set that up and be more organized. But yeah, it's gonna be a big lift. But kind of what happens around here, I know when we hired our community development director, Jennifer, just threw in there, and she same thing, and then our finance director, same thing, kind of just gets overloaded at first. But I want them to be able to have the space and the autonomy to kind of create something, and working with all of you. Not necessarily what I think needs to happen, but I think that individual hopefully will come with a lot of skills and resources to make it amazing. So, yeah.
Well, we're excited about
Yeah.
that position.
Yeah,
So
great.
thank you,
Yeah.
and appreciate. Anybody else have questions?
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
coming.
you. Yeah, thank you for your time. Good luck tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks for all you're doing for us. Appreciate it.
Item 3.0 is the consent calendar, and we don't have anything on that calendar, so we go to item 4.0, the regular calendar. And the item 4.1 is the 2025 Student Creative Artist Award interviews. So turn it over to staff.
Well, and I'm going to turn it over to Maggie.
All right, to recuse yourself, yeah. Yeah, all right, so I'm going to recuse myself as I am also a applicant of the Student Creative Artist Award. So,
Thank you. I need to ask for, do you want to do a report?
I can do just a little introduction, since we had a couple of folks who were present at the last meeting and are for this, but I do know that they have been kept up to date with the first round of interviews. But just as a reminder for those who may be watching as well, who maybe didn't see the first, I'll just do a little intro. So this is part 2 of our Student Creative Artist Awards, which is an annual program that this commission has overseen since 1988. It awards typically one award of $2,000. This year, with the additional revenue that was brought in from the Treasurer Artist Reception, we have an additional $700 to award tonight. I say we, you all have $700 to award tonight. So keep that in mind as you are considering. So on April 15th, the commission had 7 student artist interviews. Those were available via recording for the commissioners who were not able to attend that meeting for consideration, as they were, obviously you have rubrics, which are optional, not required, but optional, and the interview is one piece of that rubric for your way of being able to assess those submissions. So I will, without further ado, so that we can get along to the interviews, I will let you all remind you that all entrants were given the list of questions ahead of time in the spirit of fairness, and also have had access to the rubrics. And we can go ahead and start when you want, and the chair is welcome to assign questions, but all the questions must be asked and in the same order. You can ask clarifications, but no additional questions.
So if it's okay with commissioners, we'll just go around, start with Morgan, go to me, Deb, back. So, and however it turns out, that's great. And do I need to ask for public comment at this time? Okay, if there's anybody in the public that wants to comment, please come forward. Okay, so I think we're just about ready for Maggie. So Maggie, you want to join us? For those of you that don't know, Maggie Brown.
Hello. Hi, Maggie. Thank you for coming. When were you first aware you were a creative?
I've been a creative since I was very little. I've always asked for art supplies since I was maybe 5 years old, and I've always enjoyed like performing arts and music, and in elementary school especially, art was really the best part of my experience because school was very hard for me at that time. So that's kind of when I became creative, I guess.
Excuse me, really quickly. Can you make sure you pull the mic down towards you? Thank you.
Good.
My screen's not working. I don't know if I'm supposed to have the questions.
Last page.
So how do you want your art to impact others? How do you want them to, how do you want it to land? How do you want it to feel?
When people view my art, I want them to feel the kind of peace they'd feel if they were actually in the moment I painted. Most of my art is depictions of moments in nature, and for me, being in nature is all about finding your center and finding that peacefulness. So I really want people to feel that when they look at my art, but I also want them to really want to go out into nature and to experience them themselves firsthand.
Thank you.
Maggie, what do you consider your artistic strengths and weaknesses?
Strengths for me is probably thinking of something to paint, like my actual composition, because a lot of it comes from places I've been, and so that's a big inspiration for me. A weakness for me probably is usually sticking to one medium. I really like using acrylic paint, so maybe I could probably branch out from that. So.
What do you think separates your art, your wonderful art, from other students' works?
For me, I believe that because my art has a central theme around it, it sticks out some, but I also like to use a lot of bright colors in my landscapes instead of more neutral colors. So I think that's very different from other traditional landscape painters.
How do you hope your art transforms, and what steps will you take to get there?
Like I mentioned earlier, I hope to go into different mediums. I really want to go into oil pastels and every little techniques I can there, and kind of move on from acrylic paints to change my art.
What are you currently working on?
As I've already finished my AP portfolio, I am currently working on a watercolor portrait of my sister. So that's very interesting because I don't usually do figures or watercolors, so it's been an interesting process.
are you really hungry to learn about?
I guess it's maybe, along with broadening my materials, is maybe going into more figurative work. Like I said, I don't usually do that a lot, but a big part of enjoying nature is actually being in it, so I'd like to depict more people in my paintings. So.
Maggie, what does art mean to you?
Art for me is a way to express how, like, basically express myself, what's important to me. I'm not very good at writing things down, so painting really helps me relax and helps me focus on my thoughts, and that's really what art is. It's to help bring out you.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
Just thank you for this opportunity.
One last question.
Mhm.
What's your favorite piece that you put in your portfolio, and why?
It would probably be the painting of the rose with the ladybug on it. I really enjoyed doing that piece because in my portfolio, I didn't do a whole lot of up-close images on flowers, so it really made me get into the detail of it, of all the shading, and of the water droplets specifically. I really enjoyed painting that piece.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Next up is Tegan. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Tegan Rhodes. Nice to meet you all.
Go ahead, Morgan.
Hi, Tegan. Thank you for coming. When were you first aware you were a creative?
I would say it was very young. My mom really encouraged me to do art. She bought me a sketchbook around, I would say, 2nd, 3rd grade, and about an hour before bed, we would always just sit in her room, and she would write or draw, and I would just have freedom of whatever pens and colors and paint she had. And it was really a way for me to, I think, mature and find different perspectives on the world. I've done drawing, painting. I submitted film for this award, which I found in high school. So overall, just as I've grown up, it's been an opportunity for me to express myself in different ways, and I really attribute that to my mom in that 2nd, 3rd grade age. So.
It's wonderful. How do you want your videos, in this case, to impact us as we watch them?
So for me, I'm actually pursuing video in college, and it's really important for me to be able to connect with people and have them see themselves in the films that I make and be able to interpret the films in their own ways, so not always having just one meaning. As the film that I submitted, I would say it doesn't have one meaning. And I think it's really important that people can see themselves in art, and I hope that my art not only helps people feel seen, but also gives them an outlet and encouragement to do their own art and find their own way to express themselves, not just speaking or writing, and being creative.
Thank you.
Tegan, what would you consider your artistic strengths and weaknesses?
I would say, I'm going to start with weaknesses. I would say my weakness is I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. So in the film that I actually submitted, there's one particular shot that just bothered me so much, the composition of it. And it was such an interesting experience because it got shown at the Student Film Festival a couple weeks ago. And my classmates were all coming up to me after and just so excited to talk with me about the film and what they thought it meant. And that one shot was the only thing that I could think of. And I think for me, in my future, it's more of working on the weakness of the imperfections of art is what makes it unique. And I can always grow and change, and the continuous improvement that that weakness allows me, that perfectionism allows me, is really important for my growth as an artist. And then I would say my strength is I think I give a different approach to film that at least my classmates do. A lot of my classmates work in fiction and romance and comedies. And the last 2 films that I've made are more introspective and looking in on yourself and your life and what society says about you and what you say about yourself and the limits that other people place on you. And so I think for me it's that different perspective of having people reflect, and that's what I really want to associate my art with.
Okay, well, it sounds like you just answered the question that I'm about to ask you, but we can maybe
talk about it
yeah,
some more.
Add to it. What do you think separates your work from other student artists' work? You mentioned, other kids like producing romance
Right.
videos and comedy.
Right.
But you're more introspective.
I would say an additional factor that separates my films from other students is the time and effort I put into every single shot. The film that I submitted, I spent almost an hour. It was between an hour and 2 in each scene, and so I think I'm very proud to say that I work very hard on each shot's lighting and the composition of each shot, where my actress or actor is placed. I think for me personally, my last film that I submitted, I tried to focus on color theory and that contrasting color, and I think those specific details are something that differentiates my work from my fellow classmates' work. And so I would say that's something unique about my work.
How do you hope your art transforms, and what will you take to get there?
So as I mentioned, I tried to work on color theory in the film I submitted. I am going to be attending the University of Michigan in the fall, and I'm planning on majoring in film, television, and media. I do have to take a couple classes before I declare it, but I really hope to work on just finalizing those little pieces that make a film so beautiful, like color theory, like sound. Something I really love is the ability that sound can give an extra layer to a film, and I think going to college and working in a major that is focused on film will help me keep not only the ideas that I've started producing now, but also hone those abilities and make me a better filmmaker. And so those little things like sound, color theory, even just finding inspiration in other classmates that I find that are from all over the world. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
What are you currently working on?
So I just finished my Film Fest movie, which is kind of my big senior hurrah. But now today, we started working on the SVHS 2025 senior video. So we are collecting all of the videos from over the year, so homecoming, rallies. We had a field day on Thursday, so there's a bunch of clips we're organizing. We have senior interviews about who was your first high school crush, and now everyone's compiling all these videos for me, and I have this big folder, and I'm going through it, and we're going to make at least a 10-minute long senior video, so that's my next month's project before everyone graduates. So.
Can I ask a follow-up? What do you hope, how do you want to imprint yourself into that video, creatively?
Right, so it was funny, before my teacher approached me about it, I already started scheming about shots and things, and so I actually already pre-planned beginning and end for the video, and I wanted to have a state map and have everyone put a little pin in the state map and have it say SVHS 2025, and then also there's this shot. I get a lot of inspiration from Pinterest, and so there's this shot I really want to do of it's like looking upwards and someone's opening a magazine or a newspaper, and the blue sky is just bright and blue, going back to that color theory, and it says class of 2025 breaking news graduating. And so there's just little artistic moments in that film that I want to take little artistic liberties for, as much as it's fun and wanting to see all the videos from the past year that we've had. I do want to add some little artistic things to make it just a more well-rounded video. So.
What are you hungry to learn or explore further? And by that, it doesn't have to be, technique. It
Right.
could be conceptually, film history,
Right.
Anything.
So I was an intern at the Cinema Valley International Film Festival last year, and I got to see 2 specific third world cinema films that I really enjoyed. And something I want to dive into, especially in my work, is more documentary work and sharing those stories that aren't necessarily represented in the media today, those stories that people don't get to voice their opinions or thoughts or their cultures. I really want to share people's cultures and traditions, and I have such a passion for other people and seeing other people thrive and the community that they're able to build, and so that's something I really am looking forward to exploring and showcasing to the world, as I feel we have an absence of that in our culture and media today.
Tegan, what does art mean to you?
To me, art is really just a way to connect with people, and it might not be super straightforward or super obvious. I think it's a way to have flexibility and see other people in maybe not their physical selves. I think it's interesting to see someone's mind based on their art or how they express themselves. I think it's really passion, and it's passion on paper or video or singing, or it's just, I think it's human passion just finding a new way to be expressed, and I think it's such a beautiful thing that we have.
Maggie, is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we conclude?
I would just like to say thank you so much for your time.
Oh, sorry.
I'm so, no worries. I'm so grateful for my time at Cinema Valley High School. That's where I found film in the media arts program with Mr. Hansen. And so I'm just very grateful for that experience, and I can't wait to keep exploring. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next up is Adeline. Welcome.
Hi, Adeline. When were you first aware you were creative?
I would have to say that it was a really early age in elementary school. Excuse me. I can vividly remember any time that there was some sort of writing assignment that a teacher gave us, or a talent show coming up, that my fellow classmates would kind of groan at the thought of that, and it just instilled such excitement in me that I couldn't help but notice that difference between us. And I really think that the passion for what others may seem ordinary or mundane really sets me apart and makes me the creative that I am today.
Your poem was very unique.
Oh.
And how do you want your poetry to land on us? And you can speak about this particular one if you'd like.
Of course, yeah. I'd say one thing about me and writing is I never want to be the type of writer, poet, screenplay writer, whatever I become in my future. I never want to be the type of person that is at a level that seems unreachable, I guess is the right word. I want my writing to create passion in other people as well, and to be able to inspire people and make them realize that they also can have, this vast array of vocabulary and words and poetic devices. It really is exciting to me to know that I could have an impact on someone like that, and that's mainly my goal for writing, to create passion in other people as well.
What do you consider your artistic strengths and weaknesses?
Funnily enough, I thought about this question a lot. I think my strength and my weakness
both my main strength and weakness kind of go hand in hand. I'd say one thing about me is that when I get an idea in my head, I'm an extremely driven person, and I kind of can't stop until I perfect this vision that I have. But at the same time, often the best pieces of writing that I create stem from letting the writing take control and straying from the path that I thought I wanted to follow. And so I think my strength is that I'm so driven and so ambitious, but also my weakness is that I struggle to let go sometimes and let the words speak for themselves. And when I am able to do that, I think it's really beautiful that they are able to work in tandem and create such a unique balance of my idea of perfection and also letting it breathe for itself.
Adeline, what do you think differentiates your work from other student artists' work?
Of course, yeah. One thing about me is my friends and family would describe me as a people watcher. I pay really close attention to detail, and a lot of the times the writing that I do come up with starts with some sort of small detail. There was a poem that I wrote a few weeks ago where it stemmed from this idea of a peach pit being thrown into a pond, and I don't know where that came from. I don't know what it meant for me, but I kind of just took it and ran with it, and I was able to sculpt a piece about discovering who you are and finding a balance of who you're meant to be and who you're trying to be. No idea how that came from a peach pit in a pond, but it somehow did, and I tend to trust those small details that stick out to me. With this poem, I stayed up all night one night thinking about that trip I went on and losing my final baby tooth and pushing it into the sand with the bioluminescence, and I thought, oh, my baby tooth is making friends with the bioluminescence, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. I just have to use that in some way. And so it really stems from these really minuscule things that a lot of people, like my fellow classmates, like my fellow writers, might overlook, and I kind of just zoom in to that little minuscule detail and create something larger than life with it. So.
How do you hope your poetry transforms, and what steps will you take to get there?
Yeah, so as of what steps, I am furthering my education next year at Cal State Monterey Bay. I'll be majoring in humanities and communications with a center in creative writing. And so for me, pushing my work further and to a stronger place is continuing my education, as well as branching out to other genres. I hope that my writing is able to transform into many different things. I want to explore the side of editing, the side of publishing, the side of directing. I'm also I'm a theater kid as well. So I love to sing, and I love to dance, and I love to act, and I think that my passion for writing will also fuel that same drive that I have in that genre, and motivate me to become the screenplay writer, become the author. And so I really just want to allow myself in the future years, as I continue my education, to just let wherever the wind takes me with my writing and explore everywhere that I can. Yeah.
Great. What are you currently working on?
Yeah, so I just finished, speaking of scripts, I just finished 2 scripts. One was for my senior showcase in theater that's coming up at the end of next month. It was a really silly idea of, I go to art school in Novato, commute, but it was a really silly idea of, we have this panel that judges our auditions, and we don't know who's on this panel, and so it was a silly idea of us auditioning to graduate with this panel present and scheming about who do we think's on the panel, like, oh, what if it's just our teacher all along, and that kind of thing. And it ended up being a really sentimental thing at the end of, we might not know who's on this panel, but we know that we have each other, which sounds corny, but I'm really happy with the way that turned out. And when all my classmates read it, they all cried. So hopefully good tears. But I also just finished a script for my futures class, which is a sci-fi English class, really fun class. But our final is to create a sci-fi movie. And so I wrote a script with two of my other friends who are also writers about 3 teens who go on a camping trip looking for aliens, and kind of divulges into this super comedic trip, so you might say, of thinking that they're seeing aliens, but maybe they're under the influence of something that they didn't realize they were under the influence of. And it's really silly and really fun. And then there's a little tidbit at the end of where they're actually aliens or not. And then finally, my senior project for my English class, I decided our assignment was to come up with an idea that helps a community, really broad. But the first thing that I thought of was I wanted to be able to spread the love of writing to anyone who wanted it. Sometimes I think the arts are inaccessible for a lot of people. And so my idea was to take a typewriter from my creative writing teacher, something that I've used before, and bring it out into the plaza or farmer's market and create on-demand custom poetry for whoever wants it. They can give me a prompt, they can give me a color, they can give me a person, and I will write a piece for them right in front of their face and give them a little sticky note with it on it, just something simple. I'd also have copies of my own work that they could take for free, copies of my school's lit magazine that they could take, just to spread the love of writing to the community, because I think it's such a beautiful way to express yourself.
Great, I can't wait to see you at the market.
So if you could learn anything, anywhere, what are you hungry to learn?
Yeah, I honestly think it'd be so fun to write a novel. I've come up with a lot of ideas throughout my childhood, throughout my sister reading me bedtime stories, and some of them I think are still awesome ideas that I'd love to execute, but I just never really get the chance to. I'd love to really focus at some point during the next few years and put all my efforts into creating a full novel with plots and characters and world building, and I just think that's so much fun. I don't know what it would be about, what genre, but I know that I have the words for it, and that's something that I would love to explore. I'd also, like I said earlier, love to be an editor for a newsletter, or love to work on the publishing side of things. I really want to explore as many genres as possible in writing.
And what does art mean to you?
For me, my art, both writing and theater, has always been my escape. It's been my way to process life on my own terms. Because like I said, the little minuscule details that I focus in on, I might not know what they mean immediately. And then once I really dive into it, I realize that this is something I've been struggling with without even realizing. It's just my way of figuring myself out and doing so in a way that I can share with others and allow other people to figure themselves out through relating to my work. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with us?
The piece I submitted, I also submitted to the Outdoor Writers Association of California, and I actually won first place for it. So that's a fun little tidbit that I thought was interesting to share, and I'd also just like to say thank you so much for this opportunity and your time.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
We really appreciate it. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Could we take just a tiny break?
Absolutely.
We
How
need
many
a-
minutes would you like? Yes. How about a 3-minute break?
3-minute break. Yeah, stretch our
3.5
feet.
minutes.
involved in the arts. Like my parents met in a band, and I thought that was such a cute meet cute when I was little. I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the dreamiest like love story ever. And my brother like grew up playing the bass, and I grew up like making myself high heels out of like paper and like tape, and like making my Barbies little like dolls and stuff, and then like making them clothes, and like singing in my Waldorf school, and like knitting. And it was just like I just like loved like doing things with my hands. And like, well, I also like grew up taking ballet at the Sonoma Conservatory of Dance just over there on Broadway, and it was just like I love like entertaining and like being a part of something that like I don't know, I felt like means something. Like it was just, it's like lovely and wonderful.
So you sort of answered this, but how do you want people to respond to your work?
I mean, ideally they'd respond the same way that I respond to theirs. Like when I like walk into a museum and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I wish I could paint like that, or I see like a wonderful dancer and I'm like, oh, I wish I could like dance like her, and like, oh my gosh, like, I just love like hearing new music and like really appreciating it. And I just like, I hope people can like hear my like art, or like see my art and like feel the same way that I feel when I see like truly amazing and beautiful art.
What do you consider your artistic strengths and weaknesses?
I think my artistic strength, for what I submitted songs, and I think I have a pretty good ear, so I can pick up melodies and harmonies pretty easily, but I can't actually read music. So I like, all through like I'm in my school choir, and I'll just be like, oh, like what's happening? And I'll like listen to my friends, and I like just follow along on the paper and sort of pretend I know how to read music, but I can't.
What do you think differentiates your style, your approach to your art as opposed to other student artists' work?
I think when I like when I dance or when I sing or when I design something, because I design costumes for my school. I pull from all my different artistic languages. I like when I'm singing, I'll think about, oh, like what would this feel like if I were dancing to it? Or like when I'm drawing, I would say like, what would this feel like if I was dancing in it? Like, how would it move, or how would it feel? Like, would I feel beautiful in it? Would it make me feel better when I'm doing this? And it's just like, I don't know if I am necessarily special, but I think having all these different languages that I speak in like arts, I guess, is like really helpful. And it's nice to pull from different kinds of art, because then maybe more people can connect with it.
How do you hope your art transforms, and what steps will you take to get there?
I hope, well, I'm actually only a junior, so I can't say I'm going off to college and I'm majoring in this and that, but I hope I am accepted to a college and can progress my like education and art. And I don't know what I would major in, because I love all the different arts equally, but I don't know. I hope my art stays like progresses, but stays emotionally connected, because I think a lot of times when people push too hard when they're doing art, it doesn't like feel honest anymore. Like when, I don't know, you know what I mean? Okay.
Do you ever hope to, this is like a follow-up question, do you ever hope to learn to read music?
I do, actually.
Okay.
I went to the California State Summer School of the Arts, or CSA, last summer, and I attended their music program, and I took music theory every day. I only was in the beginner's class. There were some like music prodigies there that were like, ugh, but it was like so like wow, like this is so interesting, and there's so many parts of this that I didn't know about, because my dad grew up like telling me about all these things, but I didn't like fully grasp all of those concepts until I could like see them on paper. And like I really hope I can learn to read music someday. It's really hard, but it's
Great.
really fun.
What are you currently working on?
Right now, well, my dad and I are working on an album. We're re-recording some of the Cocteau Twins songs, so like Frou Frou Foxes and Midsummer Fires, and some of the songs like that. And then also at school, I'm the musical, like I'm helping with the music in our play called Metamorphosis by Mary Zimmerman, which is a collection of Greek myths. And I'm designing costumes, and I'm helping write music to like sort of be the underscoring for this play that's going to be really beautiful. And it's just going to be really cool if anyone wants to come. It's on May 15th.
Thank you. So what are you like dying to learn about? What are you hungry to learn?
I'm really eager to learn about composition and like learning how to write my own music, because I've been in songwriting classes, but and I just took a guitar class at my school, and I've been like sort of learning to play the guitar and accompany myself when I sing, but I hope I can learn to compose songs like all those amazing singer-songwriters out there, because I just think it's so genuine when you make your own art and you sing your own art, and then you get to share it with so many people. And yeah.
And what does art mean to you?
Well, art means everything to me. I mean, I don't think I would be who I am without art. I'm not like especially a STEM person, and I love writing, but I don't know, like singing, it's just like, oof, there's an adrenaline rush, and like it's just like, it's amazing to get up there and like connect with people, and you don't have to talk to them all, but they can all, you feel their energy like push against you, and it's like, it's thrilling, and it's so fun, and I don't know, I love connecting to people.
Tua, is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
I don't think so. Thank you so
No?
much for your time and this opportunity.
Sure.
We appreciate.
Thank you.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Next up is Daniel. Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
We're going to just go through
All right, sounds
same
great.
questions. You kind of got the drill now.
Yeah.
Hi, Daniel. Thank you
Hi.
for coming. When were you first aware you were a creative?
I believe I was first aware I was a creative when I was in grade school, but the really early years, so kindergarten, first grade. I realized whenever I saw something that I enjoyed or I felt like someone else would enjoy seeing, I would borrow a phone or a camera from one of my parents and decide that I wanted to capture that moment for others to see.
How do you want your photographs to impact others? How do you want them to feel when they're seeing them?
I want my photographs to not only evoke the emotion that I plan to evoke with my lighting and composition, but I also want people to realize that they are also able to become an artist even though they don't believe in it, because up until recent years I'd never really devoted myself to art, even though it's always been in the back of my mind as something that would be cool and interesting for me to do. I always felt like I was I felt like I was supposed to be a sports player or someone that goes out and does activities rather than sitting down and working on art.
Daniel, what do you consider your artistic strengths and weaknesses?
As I said before, I consider my strength to be the way I'm able to utilize lighting pretty well, and the composition and location of things in my photography. But a very difficult weakness for me is attempting to overcome any social anxiety I have when I'm photographing a subject of a person, because I always feel like it would be wrong for me to adjust how they're standing or change where their face is looking, even though I want it to look perfect. I feel afraid to bring up how to improve the photo.
So Daniel, what separates your photography from other students' photography?
I believe, as stated before, that my photography separates it because of how I'm very invested in the sports, and I always have been my entire life, and I've always pushed more for that. And when I started taking the photography class at the high school, I realized that my original passions were well-founded, and I could really push for that.
How do you hope your art transforms, and what steps will you take to get there?
I hope that my photography transforms because I want to be able to push more for documentary-like photography, such as photojournalism. For example, I want to be able to display why one of my subjects is feeling the emotion that I am attempting to show, and I want to be able to show people the world rather than just people having to figure things out on their own.
What are you currently working on?
Right now I'm working on a small project. I don't have a name for it yet, but it's supposed to demonstrate the real teenage high schooler life, not just what you would assume like classes and homework and procrastination, but I want to be able to show breakups and the struggles of working and social anxiety, such as the stuff that I have and I have to struggle with. And I'm trying to show the diversity also within the high school, and how even though people may look the same, they aren't really the same person underneath.
Great. I think it's really cool you're into sports as well. I think that opens itself to the documentary, and there's a lot there that's not shown other than like the victories.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So if you could go anywhere and learn more, what would that be?
I would like to go to college for photojournalism because I would be able to explore the world, which is something I've always dreamt of doing, and I still dream of going around the world, seeing new places, meeting new people, and I want to be able to see how different the cultures and the living conditions of every single place in the world, and be able to show other people that their life is completely different from somebody that could just be a few hours on a plane ride away.
And what does art mean to you?
To me, art is a form of self-expression because I've always felt that I have to stay to myself. I don't know what's taught me this, but growing up I felt that as I have to act like I'm a, quote, man and not show myself or who I am, but through art I've been able to feel those emotions and express them for everybody to see.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I believe that's it, but thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think we want to adopt all of you. We're all artists, so we're in love with all of you. So next up, we have Kai. Did I say that right? Thank you. And Morgan will start you off, Kai.
Could I have my phone up here? I have some notes on here.
Of course.
I got stuck.
Whatever helps.
Thank you so much.
Hi, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
When were you first aware you were creative?
Well, I grew up in a household full of creatives. My mom's an illustrator, and my father's a photographer. And my sister is really into drawing and sketching, and she's amazing. And growing up, I really felt like I wasn't a creative. Like I didn't fit into that stereotype, or not stereotype. I didn't fit into that mold because I I didn't feel advanced artistically, like I couldn't draw a beautiful tree or a sunset. But I think throughout my life, instead of realizing that I've become a creative, I've redefined creativity for myself. It's not just a specific skill, but it's expressing yourself in ways that others can understand and see.
That's a great definition.
I think I'm going to quote you sometime on that.
Thank you so much.
How do you want your, in this case, writing to impact others?
I try to utilize a lot of ambiguity in my stories. I want to leave the reader with a lot of questions. I don't want the plot to be super clear. I want there to be room for imagination and creating your own story in your head, your own picture of what I'm writing, as well as I want to show them what I'm trying to portray, or help them understand the concepts I'm trying to portray or relate to them with.
Kai, what do you consider your artistic strengths and weaknesses?
I think I'm really good at portraying mood and tone in a story and making a good atmosphere, a really rich atmosphere that others can really picture in their mind. I think in my stories it can become a little convoluted and hard to understand, though. Like I said, I try not to focus too much on plot and just create a world that people can really delve into and explore with their creativity and their imagining. But like I said, that can make it a little hard to understand what I'm actually trying to say.
So, what in particular separates your writing from the writing of other student artists?
Like I said before, I'm really interested in making an atmosphere, creating a space for my readers to explore, and just like a echo chamber where they can really relate to the characters, find themselves in them, find themselves not in them. Yeah.
How do you hope your art transforms over time, and what steps will you take to get there?
I really want to expand my vocabulary, trying to portray what I'm trying to say, the message I'm trying to put across. I think more schooling, of course. I think I'm interested in taking some writing classes somewhere. I'm not really sure where that would be, but I definitely just. I'm also interested in history, in writing through the lens of history, and more schooling.
Kind of a follow-up. Do you like reading?
I love reading. Yeah.
What are you currently working on?
I'm currently working on a short story called The Mothman. It's like a surrealistic story where is this person following a creature through the woods, and he's musing to himself what this creature may be or what it is doing, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Still a work in progress. A little longer than this writing.
If you could go anywhere and learn something you've always wanted to learn, what would it be?
Well, I don't think I'm going to go to school for writing. I'm interested. It is creative. I'm interested in going to school for architecture. I've applied to Berkeley. I'd be amazed. I'd be very happy if I got in, and I think that'd be a really amazing experience.
And what does art mean to you?
For me, art is a way to express myself, a way to connect with others, a way to show myself in a way that I couldn't maybe through conversation or just talking to people. And I think it's a comfort for me. It's something I can go to and express myself with alone without, I don't know.
Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we end the interview?
1 second.
Sure.
Sorry. For my story, I think it's I wanted to share that I think it's a quiet story and it deals with something big. I think it's about a concept like when someone, it feels like they're disappearing in their own world, physically and emotionally, and I think it's a story that a lot of people can relate to, and yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you all. So we're going to have to take a few minutes, I think, to
Yes,
think
I
about
was,
this.
I'm going to recommend maybe just to, maybe if you're working on rubrics to kind of collect yourself after the interviews, maybe, do you have a specific amount of time that you were thinking, Chair Schlelein, before reconvening? 5 minutes?
5
Too much?
minutes, for
5
sure.
minutes, and you all, of course, are welcome to stay for all of the meeting if you want. We have lots of fun items on the agenda, but there's absolutely no obligation. No one will be offended if you leave. We always feel the need to say that. It's not a requirement to stay if you would prefer not to. But so we'll take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break.
Okay. Thank you.
And at some point, we're going to have to make, I have to say, this is the hardest. I've been here 5 years, and I think this is easily the hardest year. Easily the hardest year we've had. And recruiting these wonderful people to be arts education advocates, and the comments they made are really heartwarming. So Morgan had kind of a cool idea. Why don't you say how you're doing your process here?
Because there's so many artists from different genres, I just am like going through and marking my highest from each, and then that can kind of lead the discussion for me. So like of all the visual artists, who was my highest scoring? Of all the creative writers, who was my highest scoring? And then some categories just have one, and how does their score compare? Just to narrow it down.
And I used a rubric, so that helped, because as we had laid out what we were going to be judging by for each student, then sticking to that and really paying attention to that was important.
And I just ranked my top 3.
So do we want to go there?
I was
Top
just going to
3?
ask Deb if she felt comfortable sharing her top 3, or if we're not there yet.
I'm happy to. And I hope I don't mispronounce the names, but my top candidate was Alina with her poetry.
The Roses Are Women.
Yes.
Yeah.
My second was Maggie with her paintings. And my third was Tegan with her video.
Alina is also in my top 3.
But with that, I would just say I agree with everyone. It was a very competitive and really talented group of students.
I was just going to say that found that the level of maturity that all these kids have was really impressive. And I did it last year. I mean, that was good, but this was super. Really makes it difficult. But, I broke it down into 3 categories: writing, Kai, multimedia, Tegan, and then art, Maggie.
Kai is also one of my top scorers.
So you had 2 writers
Yes.
in your top 3. Alina, Kai, and who else?
Kendall. Let me figure out which Kendall, because there's 2 Kendalls.
The photographer or the visual artist?
The visual artist.
Okay. That's Caton. I've got Alina, Maggie, and Tegan for Deb. I've got Kai, Kendall Caton, and Alina
Yeah.
for Morgan.
Tegan is also up there. It's like I had a lot of high scores this year.
Okay,
So top 4.
top 4. Okay, 4 is allowed. And Scott, I didn't write yours down.
Yeah, so I had writing, Kai, multimedia, Tegan, art, Maggie. Then I guess I would add one more: music, the soprano Tallulah, who seemed multi-talented. She acting, dancing.
Definitely multi-talented.
Yeah. Creating all kinds of wonderful things in different genres.
All right, Egan was a top for me, as was Tallulah, Adeline, and Maggie. If I can choose so many. And Kai, I'm sorry. I had 4 or 5.
4 or 5. I'm struggling with the way that we're defining photography because I'm a photographer, and it doesn't quite fit in the visual arts for me. In drawing and painting, it seems its own self, and I really like Daniel's work. It's impressive, and you can see the documentary aspects, that the potential's there. I thought Kai's creative writing was outstanding. I was a video teacher, so I always leaned toward Tegan because of the medium, but also the way that it was put together. It was super well crafted and spot on in terms of timing. And I had 4 people tied for visual art, drawing, painting. So Maggie, Kendall Clemens, August Ward, I thought did some really interesting things. This is really hard.
Did we want to decide how we're splitting up the funds? Because can we have like a first, second, and third place, or just split in half?
I think we can do whatever we want. Is that correct, staff?
So you do one $2,000 award, and then the $700 can be split however you would like into as many or as few additional.
I think because we have so many, a 1, 2, 3 is a good
Yeah, that makes
idea.
it interesting.
I think even if it's like 500, 200, it's
Yeah,
like,
right. Yep. That's how I would split it.
So could we invite them all to be in the parade?
Well, since we will have an ad hoc for that, hopefully by the end of the evening, I don't see why we couldn't extend that. I don't think that there is anything that says we can't. So
The more the merrier, right?
yes, I always agree.
Okay.
All contestants will.
Did we want to consider like past the artistic ability and talk about like future potential and impact on community, things like that?
I think that'd be nice. I mean, there's a lot of deserving people that, we can speak about here and admire and talk about strengths.
will you just like repeat the list of favorites so I can get organized?
Sure. So Deb was Alina, Maggie, and Tegan. She's been doing this longer on this commission than any of us, the experienced one. Morgan was Kai, Kendall, Caton, Tegan, and Alina. Scott was Kai, Tegan, Maggie, Tallulah. Connie was, as usual, wanting them all. Can't help it. Tegan, Maggie, Kai, Daniel.
Lauren, can you tell me yours again? Or did you get hers?
Tegan, Kai, Tallulah, and Maggie.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's talk about these candidates because we've narrowed them down. Morgan, you want to talk about yours? She's not ready. Anybody ready? Deb, you want to go?
Sure. Lena was the first candidate that was interviewed, if you all remember, and I watched them on video, and I cried when she read her poem. I just thought it was so impactful, and you could just really feel like I could see her grandmother in the poem. And what I also liked was that she applied last year, if you all remember. So I thought that was great that she had strength and came back with, I think, a different
She
medium.
also applied in a different medium.
Yeah, so I like that. I like that, that, she's artistic in different mediums. So that's why I had ranked her first. Maggie, I thought she held herself very well in the interview. Actually, when I went through her work, I thought it was beautiful. In fact, one thing I thought I actually would like to buy one of her paintings, and so I'll talk to her about that later. But I thought she was so good in the interview, and like you said earlier, the maturity level of all of these students is just pretty great. And I think I told Connie earlier that it really gives me hope of the world that we live in with these young people. So just very impressive. Let me look at some of my other notes with her. I like that she wants to explore and get into oils, and her favorite was the ladybug, but I love the hills with the poppy. I just thought, it's just so beautiful, and it really captures, like, there's a scene when you're kind of driving out of San Francisco, and it just looks like that, and I thought she captured what we look like in nature very well. So, and then Tegan, I thought, was just very creative, and she interviewed extremely well. She interviewed tonight. Let me see other notes that I made. She wants to pursue the art in college. I think she's going to the University of Michigan, if I remember correctly. And I like, what she's doing for the school and putting a video together. So I think almost all of you had her on your list, so I don't need to convince you.
I was just saying, as you guys have been talking, I put together a spreadsheet so it's easily to see who's where.
Fabulous, thank you.
You gonna post that on our screen?
Morgan, go ahead.
I was just going to go back to Alina because she was one of my strongest scoring. For a lot of the same reasons Deb already said. She applied last year. She used a variety of mediums. She did poetry this year. She drew portraits last year, and her spoken word was incredibly powerful. I think not only is she a strong artist, but her art is sending a strong message and representing a culture that's not always represented. When we asked her what art meant to her, she said humanity, which I thought was super powerful. Yeah, and I like how she's very activist minded. She wants to bring in politics into her spoken word. I think she wants to be a public defender or something. So just very well-rounded artist.
Others? Or you want to wait on those and move on?
Yeah, I'll just let someone else talk for now.
I'll talk about Alina too. I didn't put her in my top 4, but I was close to tears. And I think that the depth of what she brought with the Mayan culture, that her background, her grandmother, her matriarchy, kinds of homage to that, to her goals in life, which are pretty impressive. And I know she's achieving in many other ways in this community. So there are any number of these kids that if they won, I would be fine with. And Alina has a lot of redeeming qualities. I think my problem is I'm not real strong in judging poetry. And that makes me a little uncomfortable. And how to do a good job in judging something that you're not particularly good at is difficult. I think that's something that we each have different strengths and weaknesses and kind of rely on each other. But we haven't ever, that I've been seen, had writers, and we had 3 this year, which is exciting. And it makes me want to, as we do an ad hoc to improve, hopefully we do an ad hoc to improve our process continuously, that we get some judges training perhaps, or some kind of tool that helps judges. Other things we could add about Alina, or shall we move on to another? We've talked about Alina, Maggie, and Tegan. Deb did. Scott, Lauren, do you want to?
I would add to Tegan. I was very impressed with the video, but some adjectives that really stuck out for me: passionate, confident, driven. And what I really liked is she's all set to take the next step to develop her art. And you know, if I'm going to evaluate on artistic talent, I would say that she's at the top of the list. I mean, very sophisticated at this stage in her life. Yeah.
I happen to have just watched her video, so it's like really fresh in my head. But as a foodie, you know, she brings out the cake and she starts to lick it, and I'm like, ooh, that looks so good. And then she starts kind of like fussing with it, and it's like gut wrenching. Like, it's very emotional. Like, something so simple can be like depicted in a video, and you know, so emotional. So, you know, Tegan's at the top of my list for a lot of reasons. But
yeah, the subject matter was, you know, pretty heavy.
I didn't even recently watch the video, and it's like so vivid in my mind. It's like if I see a cake or a pomegranate, I'm like thinking of her video.
Yeah. And the color theory, like she said, like really. Yeah. I did want to say about, I know Kai was a strong competitor too. I just wasn't so convinced. It sounded like he wanted to study architecture, and I just, you know, wasn't sure how he felt about that. But that's all.
I think we could also view architecture as an art, and also just be realistic about. It's like I have an art degree in that. I'm a teacher now, so it's not always the most realistic choice for a lot of people.
Could I ask the people that had strong support for Kai? He just submitted the one short story, correct? Was there anything else that I missed?
The thing is, on our rubric, we only allowed for one writing piece, which is something our future ad hoc hopefully will address.
Okay, thank you.
It is a real problem, and the other thing that I think that we need to think about is possibly having them do a video reading. So it would really help.
Yeah, I think that really strengthened Alina's.
And we didn't ask the others, so there's a little bit of an unfairness to that because we didn't. So, but the others, hers was very short, so it was fairly simple to ask at that point. So Tegan is, if you look at the spreadsheet, Tegan and Maggie are running through these, and Kai and Alina are 2, and Tallulah. And so.
On Tallulah, I loved watching her videos, and it was very evident that she has such a stage presence. Right? She is just a junior, so I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that.
I was also, a number of these comments are not really about the students' work, but more about our process. And I wasn't sure that she understood entering a theater piece instead of a music piece, that category, I'm not sure that we did a very good job of setting it up.
Yeah,
so
I
that
agree.
So that it became theatrical, because it almost was like we were watching a music application, not a a theater application. We made it so minimal that they had to sit and, you know, they had to do these certain things. And I went back through and Xeroxed all the different requirements and really looked at the application, because it made it like so that they had to sit there. And I'm not sure that was very advantaging for a theater person.
For music, so it felt like that application should have been in music based on the rubric, because musical theater, they're supposed to be doing a monologue or something more theater. I don't know the right words. So for me, it also was hard to score, because I didn't know if I should be scoring on the theater or the music. Again, that's like more on something for us to think about and not on the artist at all.
I will say, when I was watching Tallulah, that, like you said, that she was just sitting there, so it was like a little hard to really have her express her theatrical abilities. But just watching her face, like, she was so expressive and, like, so talented that it felt like I was watching a musical. Like, she was on a theater, like you said, the stage presence. So she really kind of did bring that to life to me just by sitting
She
there.
was very emotional, yeah. It's like, even my roommate came out, she's like, "What are you watching? That's so beautiful." So I wrote excited. Like, you could tell she was really excited to just be talking about her art. I liked how she talked about how she speaks many art languages, and that, like, really helps her. Like, when she's building costume, she's thinking about how a body would move in the costume. And I thought that was really advanced for someone her age.
Well, let's talk about the two that have risen to the top. Let's start with that.
Commissioners, we have to remember not to have a lot of side conversations. Thank you.
So let's talk about the two that have risen to the top, Maggie and Tegan. And both have redeeming qualities. Is there anyone that didn't pick Tegan as one of their tops?
You can see the thing.
It's right in front of you.
Oh, yeah, yeah, right.
She was my third.
Your third.
If we're just, like, do you want to just, like, vote for top right now?
Maybe we ought to call the question. Okay, so should we have a motion to do that?
I will make a motion to vote for the 2025 Student Artist winner. I don't.
Do we have a second?
Oh, do I have to say for who? Okay, I thought, okay. I will make a motion. Are you guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I make a motion to have Tegan Rhodes be the 2025 Student Artist.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do we need to have a roll call?
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerson,
No.
Commissioner Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Kershner,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes,
Motion carries 4-1.
thank you. Moving on in the agenda,
Wait, don't we have to
Did
do
you-
a second and third?
oh, we do have to
If
have
you
a
want
second and
to,
third.
yeah.
Oh, yay,
The
we get to
commission
do a
wants to.
second and third. So sorry. Do I have a motion for second? Second place. $500? Or that motion needs to include the amount? and what the person's, right, okay. Do I have a motion?
I move that we select a second place winner,
There we go.
Maggie, in the amount of $500.
Okay, I second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Kershner,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes.
The motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and third place? Do I have a,
Do we want to discuss before you make a motion?
Probably
Because
oughta-
there's like 3 people
yeah,
in the running.
okay.
Point of order, do we have any notes from Meredith at all?
She did not send any along. Because she wasn't going to be attending or be able to witness the interviews today, I think that she felt it was incomplete, I think is what the word I'm looking for.
Oh, I'm just gonna give another plug to Alina.
I will give my vote to Alina as well. Like, I have 2 in the creative writing, and she was stronger for me. I also had Kai, so, like, we can, like, if you want to work on the spreadsheet, you can.
But there's a mistake there. I did not have Alina on my list. So I had, actually I had 4, Kai, Tegan, Maggie, and Tallulah. So somehow, yeah, there we go. So that becomes a net 2.
I don't know if I can even throw this out there at this point, but Adeline was like one of my top ones too. It's very impressive interview, and she also won that award, statewide poetry award. I'm throwing her hat.
That's fine. All the writers were like very high for me.
I don't think it hurts to discuss these others. There's many worthy candidates, and this next one's going deep. It's hard. I mean, Kendall Clemens was amazing to me. You know, the photographer that she was extremely sophisticated. She'd had great ideas in her photography, and this is the one. Of course, this young woman that did and I think she may have been here twice. I think she might have been last year too. We just had such a wealth of, I mean, every one of these people, Sophia, Kendall Caton, Alex, you know, his amazing drawings and were just beautiful. August, powerful work by August. This piece really struck me. Liam's guitar playing was lovely and interesting. The Smashing Pumpkins kind of wild stuff. The grandmother really was fabulous with Alina. Daniel's work, photographically strong, beautiful. It's tough.
Just looking at the tallies, Kai has 4, so I don't know if we wanted to start there for a 3rd place.
Well, it's 3 different art medium, which is nice, I think. He has a very unique style of writing.
Do you mind if I throw out a motion? You guys ready?
Well, I was going to suggest we consider the submitted statements of these two, which I'm saying Tallulah and Kai. Kai, I mean, they really put some thought into this. And I can really appreciate Kai's description of his approach and what he's trying to accomplish with his art. And then I really love Tallulah's history and summary of her accomplishments.
I know Tallulah just from the Conservatory of Dance. My stepdaughter did ballet. She's very sweet. She's been doing it for a long time. Just has a lot of breadth there in her art.
Yeah, that's what really impressed me, is that she's so multi-talented. She's involved in multiple genres.
I will just
Probably
remind the commission
very
that we
good at
did
all.
invite people to submit. They could have submitted for as many mediums as they wanted. So for this purpose, because it's so hard when you have these multifaceted artists, that they were invited to do separate submissions for any medium. So we didn't have that this year. No one submitted in 2 categories, but that was an option. So they weren't restricted necessarily. So I think, especially for those who are in multifaceted, if they didn't submit anything,
That would have been
we
nice
kind of have
to
to go
see,
on
yeah.
on other, yeah. So just a side note, that was new this year.
Okay, well, at the risk of not staying all night, we are going to have to make a decision. We've got one videographer and one drawing and painting person. So I think that neither Kai nor Alina were probably going to be going into writing. They were looking at other fields, but does that matter to us?
Yeah, I think it does. I mean, that's one of the things that really impressed me about Tegan. I mean, she's gung-ho, she's set, she's focused, and she's going to pursue it as her career. So I think her contribution, to your point about, what's the impact on the community, you look at their artistic talent, you look at their future potential, that's all important, and that's really what I think Tegan rises to the top, because she's
But
got
Tegan's
all
our-
those.
She's one.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just comparing her as being, the gold standard that we're comparing to.
Lauren, you have 2. Do you have a third one as I go across? I don't see.
We really probably, you guys at this point, if I can make a suggestion, since everyone's struggling, these are, now the votes are kind of skewed because we've removed the top 2.
Oh,
So,
okay,
and
thank
some
you.
of you had 4, some of you, so I think if someone has someone that they would like to make a motion for, and then go that process,
Thank
or you can give someone, you guys can each take your top 2 or your top 1, however you want to do that, but I would make that suggestion.
Sure.
All right, I'll move to award Tallulah the 3rd place prize in the amount of $200.
I second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerson,
No.
Commissioner Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Kershner,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-1.
Thank you. I don't know if it's appropriate to talk about forming a subcommittee to revise.
Not
Okay.
right now, it will have to wait, but I will encourage everybody to write notes on the process this year and to encourage you all to think about that, and we can convene the ad hoc committee, which has not yet been dissolved, to discuss internally.
Thank you. All right, under all this paper, I have found the agenda. It's item 4.2, the work plan.
So in the past, we have called, I would recommend, because we have a few more items on the agenda, that we wait until after the meeting, if that's appropriate, just in the interest of time, and we can do it at that time if that works for you, or we've sometimes called the day after.
Okay.
So we're turning it over to staff for the 2025 work plan.
Thank you so much.
Oh, we're supposed to ask for public comment before or after? Okay.
I think it's after you get to listen to my presentation. I also have notes, by the way. So, this is exciting. Tonight, we will be reviewing work plan for the Culture and Fine Arts Commission. This is a first time for the commission is being asked to formally adopt a work plan. Like this, the goal is to provide structure, support council priorities, and help us make the most of our time and resources. So why a work plan? As we heard earlier this evening, our city manager, David Guhin, and the city council have established an ambitious, if I might say, goals for 2025, and commissions like yourself play a key role in helping implement those goals. While the CFAC has accomplished a lot without a formal work plan, in the past, this document is a way for more intentional and strategic moving forward, especially with the city preparing to establish a dedicated Parks and Rec department. Connie, as you were mentioning, how do we support this new person who is going to be taking on this amazing task? This is one of those ways to have a work plan established and some tracks set so that they can hop on and take it. And that's what my goal is here tonight. And for your reference, a copy of the council goals that were ratified were in the agenda packet if you have that handy. So before we dive into what's next, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge how much the commission achieved last year. You refined both the Treasure Artist and Student Creative Artist Award processes and continue to do so. You recommended updates to our public art policy, and it was adopted that expanded to include temporary installations, as well as made recommendations for additional funding opportunities, which we are, as we mentioned earlier, with the fee study looking into. We also transitioned the rotating art exhibit program for council chambers to the community center, which has, in all these efforts, allowed the CFAC to realign really and focus on developing a broader public art program, which is, from what I've heard from this body and also just as the work has been progressing, has become an important foundation for the priorities that have been set for this year. And just a few, there were too many pictures. It was almost impossible, but as you can see, just some highlights from last year. So proposed 2025 priorities. The proposed priorities align very closely with council goals. That, of course, like I said, we just heard, especially those relating to community services, economic vitality, and creative placemaking, which I also put into the climate action sphere. Some of this work that we have talked about could very easily also align with those. First, the public art toolkit. And again, these are not in any particular order. It's just the way that kind of made sense in my brain as they were coming out. So to continue the development of a public art toolkit that is a foundational resource to include templates. We've talked about this at the last meeting because we set an ad hoc. So we are already on our way to creating the toolkit, which will be the foundation of our program, which we are building in tandem. Staff is working on the program pieces, and the toolkit is there to fortify it. So developing the program now that we have the policy in place is really, in my mind, kind of the first priority for this commission in terms of new work and new ideas. Next is to advance the utility box art wrap pilot program. Say that 5 times fast. We are looking forward to launching that. You will be considering it after this item, so it's a little bit backwards. Of course, you may choose to do something different, but my recommendation to launch it and to make that a significant priority, to list it in your priorities list, is because not only is it an opportunity to put art out there where we haven't had a chance to do, it's also kind of our pilot project, not just for the utility box project, so to speak, but also how to practice using our policy, put it into implementation. So it'll be the first time that we actually use it to create workflows and make sure it goes through all of the processes. And to be able to access public art funds, it will be the very first time we're able to do that for a temporary art project. So it's symbolic, it's a specific. We are very kind of, I was lamenting that we hadn't gotten to it fast enough and realized that maybe there was a very good reason why it was delayed. I think this is an excellent opportunity for us to practice our policy. Also, as mentioned earlier, exploring the feasibility of a public master plan. This has come, probably public art master plan. This has come up. I know it's been on past, you didn't have formal work plans, but I know it was in past goals that were mentioned in kind of our budget narratives and things before I was involved in the commission, and that it's been a long time talking about it. So one thing that I added to our Parks and Rec Director list of priorities is to start really exploring the true feasibility of doing a master plan for public art. There is also conversations happening about master plan around parks, master planning around a few other things. So there may be kind of a synergistic opportunity for a Parks and Rec Director as they're coming in to be able to do these processes in tandem. And so then you kind of have an art parks natural integration, which sometimes those things are siloed. So that would be my recommendation. In August, we should have someone in place. So there's a potential to start the conversations about just exploring the feasibility. This wouldn't be literally starting the plan, but really talking about what does that mean, making sure that it's budgeted, etc. In addition, this is something that has come up a few times, but an intention around engaging past treasure artists. This has been brought up to me certainly by members of the commission, but also past treasure artists have made comments about their desire to be involved in some way or another. So I don't know what this looks like. This would be something to explore as the commission, perhaps by creating another ad hoc at the next meeting, and it might be ongoing. But because these honorees have expressed interest in staying involved, we want to be intentional about creating avenues for their participation. So notable and respected artists, as we know, we have a wealth of them, and we can use all of their support for a number of ways. I'm sure you all have lots of ideas. And then finally, to continue our annual programs. I think sometimes when we do work plans and priorities, it's really easy to forget that you have consistent ongoing programs that need attention, as you've mentioned tonight, that it takes constant re-envisioning and making sure that rubrics are updated and that the programs are running smoothly. And of course, there's a big event that you all produce and all these things which take a significant amount of time. So wanted to not get lost with sometimes in priorities, not including those very important tasks that you all are doing so well that we forget that they are significant in terms of your effort. So in terms of the alignment with council goals, as we kind of discussed, these were kind of the 3 main areas that I saw most of these goals, most of your priorities kind of fitting with under. Obviously, it's Parks and Recreation and Community Services. There was a direct line item I highlighted somewhere that it's like support arts programming and community service. It was very explicit. So I think that it's fair to say that most, if not all, of the priorities certainly fit within that. I've also mentioned a number of times, and you have all read studies and all sorts of things about the economic development opportunities that come with art in public spaces in all of the forms, whether it's literally and on utility boxes, or it's a temporary installation, or in performing arts, or having artists in a community. There's a lot of things that bring economic development. And I know that our council is very aware of them. That picture is from their council goal setting session. I thought you would appreciate the slide, which has the image of our treasure artist lighted costumes there. So clearly a focus. And then also I wanted to just acknowledge that climate mitigation and adaptation, art obviously is a way of placemaking, but also a way to process what is happening, what we are experiencing in the world. And I feel that this particular subject matter is something that we certainly are all talking about and adapting to. And there has been talk about shade structures and other things that also might literally help with adaptation, but that art is a way to adapt to a number of different changes in ourselves and communities and climate and whatnot. So didn't want to lose sight of that. So the next step for you as we open it up the discussion is I'm asking you to review, give feedback on each of these proposed priorities. If you're generally in support, you can adopt the work plan tonight, either as written or with kind of non-substantive changes. So maybe not something totally out of left field that might have to be brought back for a different discussion. But if you want to totally remove something or give other direction, that's certainly within your scope. As we're talking through these, I'd encourage you to think in terms of SMART goals. I don't know if any of you have heard of SMART before. It's something I have to use myself always because I get very far ahead of myself and like to think big, but also kind of what is specific. That's what S stands for. Specific, measurable, realistically achievable. I'm more in the realistic and achievable category in terms of our 2025 work plan. You can have vision. That is for our larger thought, but for the kind of 2025 work plan, that we have 2 meetings left this year, for example. How can we move these things forward as we go along with that? So also consider whether there are implementation steps that we can start planning for. That's something I will be fleshing out too. So once you adopt this work plan, I will literally flesh it out with potential action items. A lot of it will be on staff to help move things forward, but we've already put some things in place to assist with that and to make sure those things move forward. So this plan doesn't need to capture every detail now, so it's meant to be flexible and give us some broad strokes, but in a way that we can really make some movement with the rest of this year. And with that, I will turn it over to you for questions for me, or if you would like to just dive into discussion, you're certainly welcome to do that. I'm happy to bring up, I don't know if you have them with you, but I can certainly maybe leave it on that for you if you wanted to check it out.
What was the T in the SMART goal? The SMART step?
Oh. Yeah, timely, yes. Sorry, I think I skipped over that one. Morgan always paying attention.
For my students.
Well, obviously, the public art toolkit is a huge issue for us all. If we're going to actually move forward and really accomplish something this year, then, and all the others kind of fold into it, because it's like the utility box wrap. It's a pilot that we're test driving things and trying to get them in place. So, but there's also the ideation, imagining, and continuing to consider and look around. And I think that's part of public art toolkit as well, as you do the comparables, looking at other organizations, other communities, and what they've done and what's possible here. But I know we're all hungry to get going and start an implementation, and some of our city council members are really pushing to begin.
And we're not dependent on the toolkit, so that is, we don't have to wait if we get proposals or something comes along our way. We do have the policy which does allow us to implement those things. The toolkit will help create the program that will hopefully build it and make sure that it's more accessible to all different abilities and to really start thinking about real programming. So just to clarify that we're not waiting on a toolkit to be able to implement our programs.
I think my biggest concern has been for the last, I don't know how many years I've been on the commission, but it's always how many meetings we have, how can we function, how can we, the staff's time's so short, how can we move along? I think the subcommittees really help, and we've found ways to make that work well. But I think we're all expecting something to happen soon, and so getting the plan going will help, and creating a master plan is really exciting to hear.
I agree that creating one is a great goal. I just hate the words explore feasibility to be like to be in our, what is this?
It's your priorities.
It's our priorities.
Or work plan. So it's a flexible, so it's an annual.
I would love for it to be more, what's decisive, or just like forward thinking. Like, we're not just going to explore the feasibility. We're going to create this. Just the wording.
Yeah, create does indicate there. Now I will have to just back
or
up
explore,
with the budget.
okay.
Explore.
Explore of arts master plan.
Explore the creation of.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Happily.
If everyone agrees.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way I see it, it's like non-negotiable. Like, if we want to continue with the other things, we have to have a master plan. So it's like not the question if it's feasible or not, but when and what.
When and how do we do it? Not like can we? Yeah.
Other thoughts?
I think just something, maybe this is part of the toolkit, but I feel like there's not a lot of conversation about like budget and like money that we have when someone comes to us with a proposal. Like, I don't think we know how much we have, and maybe the city doesn't yet. But just maybe more like regular conversation about that and allocating, like, I don't know if it's a budget, just some money, managing the money and what we have for art.
So technically, the council does all the budgetary and funding. So there is a public art fund that can be used for the public art program. We do, this year, it is going to be a separate budget within the budget. So before it has not been, I use the term programmed because I come from a certain type of financial background, but it hadn't yet been activated. So this year there is that opportunity. As we move forward with the public art program, if there are like regular things, we can put some budget in there so that if proposals come, that you will have something readily available. And we did talk about it last week. That I just have to remind you, I did try to get the exact dollar amount. I didn't get the exact dollar amount, but I was told just under $70,000 is the fund balance. And as I mentioned, and as David mentioned, we're going through the budget process now. There hasn't been any indication that they would not put the standard $25,000 that typically goes in annually. There hasn't been an indication that's not happening, but we can't count on that until after the budget is adopted. Yes, Deb, sorry.
May I make a recommendation then going forward? Maybe we just have an agendized item on our agenda of a financial update.
Also, I don't know where the prioritization of projects, and I suppose that's still in the public art toolkit, the priority discussion. We, as a commission, I think we need to spend some time on thinking about things and talking, just like with our student artists. Who's top, who's next. We have had virtually no time to really talk about where we're going, what ideas have come to us, what we're envisioning, and having a meeting where we might be able to do that would be really helpful.
like an annual meeting where we, like priority setting meeting every year, kind of?
Some kind of study session. I think otherwise you end up, I think our last meeting last week, we really saw that we're not ready. We're way not ready for what comes. And just speaking from experience 25 years ago when the community I was in started to receive donations of sculptures that were less than the city desired, and how you handle that when somebody's Aunt Alice is going to be placed, you know, right in the middle of some place, and people have trouble understanding the plan. What is the plan and how does it fit? And there's an aesthetic to everything that's getting very exciting around here that probably needs to be discussed and agreed upon. So those sorts of things are, especially as we're starting to work on the climate map and that sort of thing. Benches, what do those look like? Thank you, this is really great. Appreciate all the work that went into it. Yes.
Do we need a motion to accept?
Yes, so it's I guess we kind of consider it adopting, and then it will go to council as well, since the priorities should align with council goals. That's the objective of staff. And then I can also, it'll be more or less this, and if you're curious, the the Climate Action Commission and Planning Commission just had theirs adopted at the last night at city council meeting, so you can kind of watch and see how that process goes. It is something that the city hasn't done regularly with its commissions and is attempting to do to make sure that we can really get, again, that track. We're trying to move the train. And we think David did review these as well, and we talked about them internally in terms of what would help really get us to that next step, which I think I'm hearing Connie talk about is I see this all as also part of the master plan discussion. There's really a lot of envisioning and other kinds of work you get to do around that, and sometimes there's public input and all of these things, which at our current capacity just hasn't been feasible. Sorry, I know you don't like that word, but I've become a bureaucrat. That's the word we use. It hasn't fit into the budget time-wise or otherwise. So the hope is that with the creation of the new department, there will be a structure and more support to be able to get those things moving through.
Thank you. So we need a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Can I second with the caveat that we changed that wording?
Already done.
Okay, second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Kershner,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
and Chair Schlelein.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
Was I supposed to do public comment before that vote?
Yes, you were.
Oh, well, nobody's here, so a little out of order there. Item 4.3, that this is approve the utility box wrap project as a temporary public art installation. Staff?
Me again. I don't suppose I need to introduce myself, do I? So excited to bring this pilot program, an initiative that brings art and creativity and beauty to everyday infrastructure. It also supports local artists and helps activate our public spaces through art. This is becoming a common form of public art seen in cities across the country, and I think we're ready to launch our very own version of it here in Sonoma. So, program overview, as you can see, these are just the pictures of the 5 locations that were identified by the ad hoc, the originals. and some of their condition. Some could use some beautification. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. So just a little bit of a reminder of how we got here, because I know we've talked about this a lot, but we might just need a little bit of a refresher. So the commission has discussed the idea of this for several years, but other priorities, including the need to update the public art policy and ultimately funding, delayed the implementation of this. So with the council's adoption of the updated public art policy in late 2024, we now have an avenue to be able to use public art funds for this process, which will allow it to move forward. Since then, the ad hoc committee has reconvened and coordinated with vendors, thank you, Scott, and other jurisdictions like Caltrans, and we now have a draft RFP and an artist agreement. Both were reviewed by the city attorney. I will just note that the agreement in particular is will still need to be slightly amended based on further legal feedback, but all of that will be sorted out before it goes to council next. So, as you can see, the proposed box locations, cost estimates, etc. Based on the vendor quotes, the estimated cost to wrap a single box, and I apologize, I had done my math a little bit wrong, because we have 5 locations, but technically 7 boxes at those 5 locations. 2 locations have a large box and then a smaller box that sit right next to it. So there will be, in my cost estimate, it does not change the ask. It still will be not to exceed budget of $15,000, but there will be 7 total artist stipends, and an artist can submit multiple artworks and can be awarded several different commissions for that, just so that you're aware. Just as an aside, because this question has come up not from the body but from the outside, and so it's worth noting as why we've chosen vinyl wraps over painting. As you know, the Springs decided to do physical painting on theirs. There's a number of reasons why it was selected, the vinyl art wraps were selected. One was accessibility. It doesn't require artists to physically have to be out on the road if you have different abilities or unable, even some people are sensitive to noise and light and all those things, that it can be a challenge to be working on the side of a road and on metal specifically. So that was one of the reasons why the vinyl was chosen. Another is it supports a broader variety of artistic styles and mediums, so you don't necessarily have to be a specific type of painter on metal. It allows for a much broader base of artistic styles. The installation is quicker and it's completed by professionals who do this, so it's a much quicker process in general, which minimizes disruption and it avoids drying times and kind of sealants and all of those things, which can be tricky. And then also in my research of several other cities, as I was looking at other people have programs, there's a lot of robust programs and really wonderful ones. I talked to a lot of people, and many of them started as painted boxes, and they have mostly all moved to vinyl now. Or sometimes they do a mix, but really have moved to it for all the reasons I mentioned above. Plus, it's just becoming kind of the common medium to be able to do that. So I know this is like a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, Deb, do you have a question?
I do, and I've been on the committee, but I know Scott and Meredith have really been doing all the work, so I can't take credit for any of that, and I maybe should know the answers to these questions. But the stipend, is that for the purchase, or it's simply the use of their art?
It's for the use of their art because it is being put into a digital format and then wrapped, put onto a different, it's not, I don't believe it's an exclusive use, but I think in the RFP, if you read through it, there is more specifications about that. And then that Meredith was more careful in understanding about that.
And I remember we chose the wraps because they were easier to keep clean and graffiti type of issues, but in the event that those types of things happen, is it the city that will maintain them and clean them and, or any type of upkeep for them?
That's correct. So as part of it in our temporary art policy, maintenance is a big piece of that, if you remember. So because this is a commission-led project, it would fall under the city. And we are going out as the public, and again, this is following best practices, that the city would be able to maintain them. And we, of course, would have a process of that. Which is obviously we haven't done yet, but I have talked to many other people and got a pretty good sense. And fortunately, it doesn't seem like there's that many instances where that's the case, and they often can be mitigated pretty easily. So approval and implementation process, this is just so that you can kind of see the route that we're going to be taking for this. I know it looks like a lot of steps, but I really just wanted to be clear for you all. I don't know, clear as mud, maybe a little bit, but just to kind of demystify how the process is going to go. So one thing I want to note before I go through the laundry list of what all these steps are is that if this becomes a regular program, an ongoing program, an expanded program, I know there's a lot of, I'm now getting texts with, not just from the body, from other people who are like, hey, I saw this utility box over here, that there's potential expansion opportunities here. There's questions about private property, how do we get people involved who have things, and there's just a lot of possibility. So if it becomes ongoing, some of these steps we won't have to go through all of these steps every single time if this becomes a continuous program. As a first time, if we're treating this like a first time or one time even temporary art project, it does go through a little bit of a different review because of the nature of this project is different, where we have to get approval for an RFP and then also approval once the art is all selected. So just to add a note in there. So we're at the very first step, which is your consideration and a review and hopefully recommendations. Then that will go to City Council, primarily for the RFP, but we can also for the funding portion. The RFP is released hopefully in, released in I think June is when we're hoping, early June, to start receiving those submissions. Then when the RFP closes, the submissions are organized, and this is a common practice again, that it's randomized. They're given numbers for the artist selection panel to look at rather than being attached to a name, for kind of fairness, especially I understand in communities like ours that are small and have lots of artists that we all know, that some may guess by their submission who they are, but it helps with that selection process. So then the artist selection panel will review and make their recommendations, which will be brought to the commission, hopefully at their August meeting, if all goes to plan. At that point, once the art is all selected, then it does internal review. Again, this is that part of the policy where we have community development department, the public works, when they're looking at their maintenance plans, and they just make sure that everything is right in the world of city infrastructure. that gets that review. Then it goes to City Council for final approval. They approve it, of course, and then the artists are notified, agreements are signed, and then the vinyl wrap fabrication and installation begins as soon as we're able to get the appropriate file types.
Can I ask a question?
You absolutely can.
Who is on the artist selection panel?
Excellent question. I have a recommendation for that too. In the future, again, there's lots of opportunities. This is up to the commission. This is one of the things that we built into the art policy update that was not in before. Before it was very strict. You had to have a architect and something to sit on a panel. Now the commission can serve as a panel. You can have an ad hoc serve as a panel. You can make it a community panel. There's lots of options for this type of project. Permanent is a little bit of a different process. My recommendation is going to be that the utility box ad hoc continue on as the artist selection panel, since they've been very involved in the understanding of working with Caltrans and knowing kind of the subject matter and the RFP and kind of all the things that have gone into it. It seemed to me to make sense for timing wise too, to expedite it a little bit. that they would continue serving. That is, of course, at your discretion, but that's going to be my recommendation.
Great. And then internal staff, is that you guys? Or
So internal staff would primarily actually be people I go down and go, okay, tell me what I don't know about this. So Public Works, Community Development Department, which includes building and planning. That's part of any temporary art review. Now, vinyl art wrap is not probably going to be too problematic, but if this were, say, 3D sculptures being set around town, obviously we would need, our internal engineering and them to kind of really think about that, and also the maintenance, make sure it's safe for all those things. So this is what that review is for. It won't necessarily be probably very difficult for them, considering I've been talking about this for a while with those departments, but to make sure that there's nothing we haven't considered in terms of safety and other things.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to suggest or agree that the ad hoc in this case serve as a selection panel. However, would like us to think about expanding as we do our temporary art projects and expand around the town, that we consider different selection panels in the future, rather than just our commission completely doing it all. Because I think it really helps open up the community to the process. It also, we have a huge number of experts, but in this case, it seems appropriate.
Yes, and you're exactly right, Schlelein. So a lot of communities have various kinds of panels, and it is all over the place, but there is definitely a lot of opportunity to do a more public process in terms of community representatives on a panel, and all the things that means. So that would definitely be explored. It's the excitement of making this ongoing. It could really be something awesome. So just to clarify, I know there's a lot in this one. I'm asking you for 4 things tonight. One is to recommend to approve the utility box art wrap pilot program as a temporary public art installation, and then it will go to City Council for approval. I'm asking you to recommend to approve the draft RFP and artist agreement, with the understanding that, particularly the artist agreement, the legalese, will likely need to be amended a little bit. Recommend the allocation of an amount not to exceed $15,000 public art funds to be used for this project. It will be programmed into next year's budget, so I have a placeholder there in case you do that. And to confirm the continuation of the utility box art wrap ad hoc committee to serve as the artist selection panel, or if you decide to do something different. Yes, Deb.
Are we on a fiscal year or a calendar year for
Fiscal.
budget? Okay, thank you.
Yes, so July 1, which this lines up kind of perfectly for that. So if we didn't have that, just for your edification, because I learned it, so now I feel like you need to hear it. Because we didn't program, I didn't put any money, or didn't have a fund actually, to be able to put into the budget, to be able to expend these funds, there would be an additional line or two on that little road pathway that I had up for your review. Would also then include a budget adjustment that would go to City Council to be able to move those funds into a space where we could access them, because otherwise they're in interest-bearing accounts and other things. The money's being held elsewhere, so accounting.
So before we need a public comment at this time, and then we can entertain a motion, a 4-part motion, it sounded like, for draft of RFP, approval of the project, the amount not to exceed $15,000, and the ad hoc serving as a selection panel. So do I have a motion for that?
Is this going to be 4 separate motions or one motion to
It can
approve
be one
all?
motion, yeah. And sometimes as I've watched a lot of meetings now, it could be a motion as stated in the staff report if you don't want to have to say it all out loud. But I do welcome you to say it out loud.
So moved.
second, anybody?
I'll second.
Roll call?
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerson,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Kershner,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries 5-0.
thank you. I think we have a question.
I just wanted to ask, once we send out the RFP, if we could please send that to our visual artists that submitted for the student competition as well.
Great idea. I will make a note. I've already added everybody to my master artist list. But thank you for the note, because I might have overlooked that. Thank you.
We are moving on to item 4.4. That is the formation of the 4th of July Parade and Ad Hoc Committee. And a staff report, please.
Yes, so this was an item that was continued from last meeting because there were some people who were interested, but they were not here. So we wanted to make sure that we had a representation of a more full commission to be able to talk about forming an ad hoc committee for the 4th of July parade. So this year we have a treasure artist who is interested in constructing something for the 4th of July, who may need some help in that regard, but also the day of, making sure that we have an easier transition of the banner, and making sure that we have everybody involved to help coordinate with the 4th of July parade activities and flow for the treasure artist. And of course, staff is still very much involved, and RSVPs and things would go through staff to avoid Brown Act violations, but that they would be very helpful in making sure that we just have an amazing float, because I think it's going to be super cool. And I know Deb, I did share that Deb had initially said that you were interested, and so I shared that at the last meeting, but we decided not to assign you without you being here.
No, I'm happy to, but if others really want to do it, then I don't want to take someone's spot, but I'm happy to help out however.
So we could use some volunteers on this committee.
We pretty much saved it for you, knowing you really wanted to do it, and I will happily help.
Others?
I would love to be on the committee, however, I'm going to be out of town beginning on June 15th, so I don't think I can get much accomplished before then, and I certainly won't be here the day of, so I'm going to have to decline. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I don't know.
Meredith in the last meeting said that she was a little bit overscheduled's not the word I'm looking for, but she
Yeah.
has a lot going
Underwater.
on. So I think she was willing if absolutely necessary, but her current workload and schedule was a little full for it.
Okay, so we need a public comment on this, and now we need a motion for the ad hoc committee to be formed. Someone want to do that?
I motion to assign Morgan and Deborah as ad hoc, Connie?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Connie as ad hoc members for the 4th of July parade.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Momsen,
Yes.
Commissioner Emerson,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Wagner,
Yes.
Commissioner Kershner,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Chair Schlelein.
Yes,
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
thank you. Item 5.0, commissioners' reports and comments. Any new ones since last week?
Happy Earth Day.
We're very proud of Maggie Brown, who
Oh,
is
right.
Thank you, guys.
yes, a stellar visual artist in our community, and pretty exciting. So, and $500 sounds like it's coming your way.
Potential buyer.
And
Yeah,
and you've
yeah.
got people wanting to talk to you.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So some good things are happening. And if there's nothing more, then 6.0 to the staff reports.
I will let Rebecca go first.
I said when she was done, but that's okay. I just wanted to announce that last night at their council meeting, the city council did reappoint all of the at-large members for a term through 2027, January of 2027. So Scott and Meredith will continue as your at-large members.
That's good news. Thank you.
Agreed. I don't have much else, but I do want to just point out, I'm sure you've all noticed that we have our first installation done by the Sonoma Community Center using our new art hanging system. I think it looks lovely, and we announced today the winner, Bonjour Sonoma, which is over to my right. And then close behind you'll see ribbons. Those were the kind of top 3 vote getters from this year. So always interesting to see, and of course the community center is lovely to work with, and they were so busy. I'm so grateful that they have taken on this project, and that the next one will be student art. So we traditionally reserve space for our Student Creative Artist Award recipients to display art, and in past years we've even expanded that to include other entrants that maybe didn't receive awards but have visual art that they would like to display. So that will be in the very capable hands of the community center with, of course, my assistants in making sure that they get the connections that they need to do that.
When does that go up, Sarah?
I don't have a date for that yet. So I think it was originally scheduled for summer, quote unquote, was the original thought from the community center. But since they are technically the administrators of the program now, I would want to check in with them before making any statements on that. But I really don't have all that much other than to thank you so much. I know this was, for us, a marathon, and we dealt with, there was a lot in here, and I know that we have a lot of great ideas and things moving forward. So thank you for working on this board and on behalf of our community, and I'm looking forward to fleshing out that work plan and continuing to move things forward. Just really appreciate you all. I know we don't meet until August, but we do have ad hoc committees that will be discussing, and of course, as usual, we will have regular communications as we go on from there.
And the new hanging system looks great. Thank you for helping facilitate that. And I know Brian and a lot of different people were involved, community center.
Yes, we're going to give a big shout out to Chris Pegg in Public Works and Brian Rowlands, who Chris Pegg was responsible for making sure that we got the system ordered in the correct proportions, and then he also is responsible for scheduling work. So Brian Rowlands is a Public Works employee that we have who is also just multi-talented. We use him for a lot of things you would appreciate. Very hands-on. So he actually did the installation. He's also the person who single-handedly installing all the new park benches and tables and amphitheater seating. If you have not seen it, it is transformational. It really makes a big difference. So the city received a donation of lumber from Sonoma Raceway and of redwood, and it is replacing everything, all the wood items in the plaza, and it's been stained, not painted, so it really does change the look of the plaza. So I think it's transformational for sure. So take a look. There's lots of exciting things happening in there.
I also, this late hour and this workload that we have just accomplished, thank you, commissioners, for the amount of work and attention and care you put into it. And a great job, too, getting the word out. I mean, the amount and the quality of applicants is a testament to really working it. And there was, the competition was fierce. So, but we saw the next saving generation, and it makes us happy. Thank you. So with that, 8:50, we're ending.